first, I would like to introduce Joe and Celia Ward-Wallace. They're founders of CCLA Cafe and Market, which is a community coffee shop, grocery store, and cultural center located in the heart of South Central Los Angeles. It just opened at the end of 2019, I think, right? Am I got that right, you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
November.
Hello and welcome.
Hey everybody, we're excited to be with you. We're at the end of a long actual work day today at the cafe, but we're excited to be here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very, very, very tired.
Thank you for being here. We respect. Next is Grady Lee, who is co-founder and CEO of Give to Get, which is a social impact company, and he has more than 25 years of experience setting purpose in motion for brands and communities all over the world, and is also a longtime friend of CCLA, I wanted to point out. So welcome, Grady.
Hello, good to be here.
And then Sonya Sepahban, co-founder and CEO of OurOffice, a technology startup that has created the category of diversity and inclusion as a service for businesses of all sizes using a monthly subscription model. Hello and welcome, Sonya.
Hello, and thank you.
All right, great to have you. And finally, Eric Coly, founder and CEO of Ayana Therapy, a technology startup that offers mental health services to marginalized communities with an emphasis on intersectionality. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
All right, nice to have you. Excellent. Okay, so we will now, I'm going to put the first question to Joe and Celia, which is really just a basic starter question. Tell us about your business and the purpose of your business.
Unmute us. Oh, there it goes. You go ahead and start. I'll chime in.
Okay, awesome. Can you guys hear and see us okay? Yes?
Yeah, I think we need to unspotlight Eric.
You got to click on your thing.
No, they do that. That's the tech team, right? Not us.
Awesome. We can see you.
Okay, awesome. So we're Joe and Celia Ward-Wallace.
Hi.
We're long-term residents in South Central LA. We've been together ourselves for 23 years, and we have been doing conscious capitalism and social enterprise models of business from the minute that we met. And
we started this with that same intention.
Yeah, we started our cafe, and we also have a market in our local community where we live in response to gentrification and lack of access to fresh, healthy, and affordable food. Right. What else can you tell them about what we do?
We supply, meals to the seniors. We supply grocery bags free grocery bags once a week to the community. All kinds of things.
Yeah, and we basically were seeing our community changing and wanted to do something about it ourselves. And so we decided that we couldn't wait for other people to come into our community and make changes for the people that needed it the most, and that it was time for us to continue to deepen our levels of leadership and really respond to the needs of the community by creating something, as we say, that's for the people, by the people, or for us, by us. And so that's what we did, and it kicked off in November, and it's been like a rocket ship ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. Follow-up question. How do you define inclusion? How do you find inclusion, and why does it matter to you?
Oh, just to follow up like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for you. It's a bam, boom. Yeah, two-part.
Okay, well, what do you think, honey?
I mean, that's what we're doing. I mean, we're living it. So we're inclusion, that's. How
would you describe it though, or think of it? I think for us in a community where predominantly the people are people who have been marginalized and haven't been included, it's a bit of a flip-flop dynamic where it's about creating more access to resources and opportunities for the people that live there. And in terms of our I mean, I know we're going to talk more about this as we go, but in terms of our work, I think that's really important to us to make sure that we're hiring local folks and that everybody's voices are being heard, right?
Right. We try to represent the community with who we hire.
Mhm.
We hire from the community. That's our, we from day one, that's the way we started off. It was like we were not going to let, I don't know if you want to call it the outsider come in and show us what we need. We were going to create something and show them what we have, and you be a part of it. So
yeah, really highlighting and honoring all of the talent and resources and ingenuity that exists within our own backyard, and making sure to find ways to center those folks so that they can just do what they already are doing, but utilizing our platform to basically amplify their work and get more visibility and opportunity.
And have a place where they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Really.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's our first round on that.
That's great. No, I love it. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. That's what we get a good sense of what your orientation is on that. So I really appreciate that. Going next to Grady. Grady, same questions for you. Tell us about the purpose of your business, and then the follow-on will be, how do you define inclusion and why does it matter to you?
So the purpose of our business is to help create social impact programs for business that can you see me yet?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the purpose of the business is to develop social impact as a tool for business, to clarify strategy, to build value, and to drive productivity. We've been doing this, creating social impact programs and campaigns for brands and employer brands and consumer brands for a long time. And so we see social impact now as much more than we ever have as a tool for business to grow and differentiate and be better. We try to help make the people better, we make the brands better, and ultimately make the world better.
Awesome. How do you define inclusion? Why does it matter to you?
When I think about inclusion, I kind of come at it from a position of kind of exercised power, right? When people have agency over their environment or seeming of their lives and their neighborhoods and their communities and the businesses where they work, it's ultimately about power and being included in the decision structure, being included in how things operate, feeling like you have agency over that, over your environment, is really kind of, when I try to strip away everything, I come down to it's just a conversation about power and how it is shared and how it is exercised and how it kind of lives within a community.
Mm-hmm. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. That's great. That gives us a good intro. Sonya, same questions for you. Tell us about the purpose of your business, and then how do you define inclusion? Why does it matter to you?
So thanks again for having me here. I love the awesome purpose of conscious capitalism and CCLA. So thank you for what you guys do. We experience inclusion in all aspects of life, right? Our purpose in our company, our office, is to do what the theme of this event is, building a culture of inclusion in the workplace, in that aspect of our life, which is where we spend a lot of our lives, all of us do. I was trying to improve inclusion for my own organization for about 7 years. And with best intentions, we found it was really hard. And some things worked, some things didn't. It was a lot of experimentation. And it was ultimately, even in things that we did do, it was hard to sustain it. So the way that we achieve this purpose is with what we call diversity and inclusion as a service. So this is where, you can help any organization, no matter how small or early stage or how complex. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think someone just joined who wasn't muted. If you can you make sure you mute yourself, please? Sorry about that, Sonya.
No worries, no worries. So yeah, what we define, the way we do D&I, diversity and inclusion as a service, is we help organizations, no matter how small or early stage they are, because oftentimes people think they're too small, they should, maybe it's not time yet, but it's never too early. And really organizations should start this right away, as soon as they have a few employees. And so we help them by providing, a monthly, affordable monthly subscription. It gets them a dedicated D&I manager, someone who knows what they're doing, a proven process that we have used over and over again to engage the whole organization, and the data and the technology that you need to make real progress and to measure it. And really my message is no company is too early, too small to get started. And we're here to make it as easy as we can. In terms of how I define inclusion, or we define inclusion, we've all felt at one time or another, if we look back, no matter what our color of our skin or gender or orientation or anything, when we were left out, when we didn't fit, when we had to hide an aspect of our life, when we felt shame or was just not comfortable sharing about a part of our lives. When that happens, if you think back, it causes us to spend some of our energy towards that, towards hiding the shame, hiding the, or just not being comfortable. So to us, inclusion is about being comfortable in bringing our whole selves to our work, to our life, to any community that we are part of. The reason it matters to me and to our team is twofold. First of all, it matters to everyone. If you look at like the Maslow's hierarchy, after the physiological and safety needs, there is the social need of love and belonging. And inclusion is like a prereq for that, for belonging. The second thing, maybe more practically for business, which is where we are focused, is really success of businesses in building cultures of inclusion and success of individuals within the businesses. So we do offer coaching and things like that as well to individuals. Is, that there's just so much data, and there used to be data about, diversity matters because of course performance is better. Diverse teams, HBR has, Harvard Business Review, McKinsey, BCG, everybody has reported on these numbers, right? But numbers that range, they're pretty significant. 20% higher revenues from innovation, employees feeling 20, 30% more collaborative, more commitment, more giving, discretionary time and effort. So again, twofold. I mean, it matters to everybody as human beings, and secondly, it matters, I think, to being successful at any kind of organization, profit or not-profit. Everybody wants to be successful in what they're doing.
Thank you so much. I was going to give a little introduction in the beginning about inclusion, and then I was like, no, I'm going to let the panelists define it. So I really appreciate that, Sonya. That's great. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, over to Eric now as our fourth panelist with the same question here. Eric, tell us about the purpose of your business and how do you define inclusion? Why does it matter to you?
Sure. So Ayana Therapy is a platform, online platform that enables access to counseling for minorities and marginalized communities with an emphasis on intersectionality. And essentially what we do is through some algorithm, we are able to match-make individuals with licensed counselors based on race, gender, ethnicity, and religion. And we offer it online where someone is able to essentially text or video call your counselor. And the emphasis there was to create a safe space in order for people of color to be able to be better heard, better seen, better touched. Because as we know, counseling to a degree means empathy, and empathy means being heard. And there was a rather ostensible neglect vis-a-vis counseling regarding minorities. And so what we're trying to do is we capture a sense of integrity, right? And make sure that they get heard better. And we cater to corporations and universities as well as individuals. We're launching in 10 days, actually. So we've been prepping the launch for the last year and can't wait to get going. All right, inclusion. I'm not from the States, as you can tell, right? I have an accent and I've lived all over. For me, it really transcends what the traditional definition of inclusion means. To me, you know, and I'm going to echo Sonya's point, it means to feel safe, right? No matter your trait, your gender, your ethnicity, your disability, you know, are you able to be accepted, right? I lived in a country where it took me a while for me to realize that people weren't like me, i.e. one from my same ethnicity, right? And I had to literally learn as I moved overseas that there were indeed some separations between us that, you know, to me, are really more of a construct than anything. And why does it matter? It matters because it's life. People are, you know, I hate to bring this up and infuse such a sad tone in this conversation, but it's a matter of life, right? At a minimum, right? It also engenders empathy, right? There are ways for us to be able to gently introduce people who aren't as quote unquote evolved to a concept of inclusion through empathy, right? And I'm also I'm also much of an optimist in that we are gearing towards a very inclusive world, but it's going to require effort and determination from all of us. Yeah, I think those are my 2 cents.
Love it. Thank you so much. That's great. Great. Love the different perspectives that everybody is bringing to the discussion. 2020 has been quite a year. And I think there's been a tremendous amount of disruption, of opportunity, of innovation, of pivoting. Going back to Celia and Joe, let's talk about 2020. How have the events of 2020 changed your approach to your business and how that plays out in your work towards inclusion?
Okay, you can start that off. Are we on mute?
We can hear you. You're
Okay,
good.
go.
If you haven't picked up on our dynamic, he likes for me to start and then
I chime in.
You know, after 23 years, this is our routine here. So he's he'll chime in when he gets excited about something. But yes. I should just say, you know, we have an intersection of entrepreneurship and community organizing in our upbringing. Right. So Joe was raised by a beautiful, you want to tell about your mom?
Mother that just was amazing. Just started all kinds of businesses. That's all I knew. She was all, you know, people call it the hustle. She was always hustling, and she was always doing one business or another. So I learned her work ethic. I saw how she, you know, just, I can go on.
Well, and my parents are full-time community organizers. So Joe grew up, born and raised in South Central, and I grew up in South Central because my parents were doing community organizing there. And so it's no small thing that, you know, 20 years later, we meet, we fall in love, and we commit our lives to making a difference in this community that means so much to us, through an intersection of social justice, community work, and entrepreneurship and creating businesses that do good, right? Mm-hmm. And so the whole framework of what we were creating was always with this inclusion. Yeah, you know,
we did real estate with that in mind. You know, we started off with real estate, and it was always, you know, we're going to have a fair or create a fair situation for people of color and poor people. You know, there's just that, I mean, that's the way we started our business. I mean, It was,
So there you are, you had this amazing plan, and then 2020 happened.
Yeah. So we opened in November. It was always meant to be for the people. It was always meant to be an inclusive space, and very much for people who do not feel safe or welcome in other spaces to have somewhere to go in their neighborhood. And it was off to the races. It went great. But literally, you know, for those who launch businesses, you know, if you start in November and COVID hits in March, you know, it doesn't matter how great your business is doing out the gate. That's a pretty intense, scary moment. And we took about 24 hours. We had a business meeting. We closed for 24 hours when they said that we had to pivot our business to takeout only, you know, overnight. And we had a 24-hour business meeting.
And then we found that through all of this, there was just more need.
Yeah.
That's what I after COVID, I just didn't, we knew that there was a need in this community, but we realized after it hit how much more people, and in this case, just needed food.
Yeah. So we pivoted towards essential services, which is a whole nother sidebar, but also a lot of what we teach, you know, other businesses is how to really understand the need and how to deliver to that need. Right. And so this was an example of, because we had always had that mindset of, is there an actual need in the marketplace for what we're creating that is going to be recession proof? You know, that was always from the beginning something we thought about, that when this happened, we pivoted even deeper into that and tried to find that intersection between how can we keep our business alive, and also do that by deepening the work that people need and services that people need. And so we like became a humanitarian, you know, business in the works.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, giving
instantly.
away the groceries and feeding the seniors. I mean, it's unbelievable, our community, how much it is needed.
Yeah.
And how do you sustain that? Sorry, I was just gonna say, how do you sustain that financially? I hear you give.
Oh my God.
That sounds great, but how do you pay for that?
Well, the cafe itself has actually sustained itself. So the cafe operations, although we took a huge plummet, came back up again. You know, we have a great product, we have a great environment, and we very much utilize our social media platforms for people to actually know who we are. So people really want us to win. And so we created a $5 or more membership, sort of like a Patreon kind of platform where people are giving us money monthly, just to keep our doors open, and they're actually not getting anything in exchange for that. So we had, you know,
except for our doors staying open.
Yeah. We had over 500 people commit to do that, and still are ongoing at some level that they can handle. Our business itself became self-sustaining, especially after Starbucks, you know, told their employees they couldn't wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts. We had already been saying, you know, choose South LA Cafe, not Starbucks, and here's why, you know, based on a lot of the tenets of what conscious capitalism focused on. And that was always very compelling to people. But when Starbucks did that, it was like, on top of the fact that they tried to arrest the 2 Black men that were just sitting there a year ago, you know, just having a meeting. Now on top of that, they went and did, you know, this where their employees couldn't wear the t-shirts. So it was like overnight that
people made a switch.
And
especially in our community.
And we really challenged them from this sort of concept of inclusion of, you know, put your dollars behind your values. And if your values are that you want to believe in a conscious capitalist business, one that centers on marginalized folks, one that is inclusive, then
come support it.
You have to sacrifice. Yeah. So that's to say. And then just one last thing I can just say is our grocery business has boomed. So the arm of our business that is doing groceries, which was a pivot into essential services, that has almost, you know, doubled what it was doing before, because local nonprofits have a need to feed people through their own budgets. And so they are coming to us to source the food, to package the food, and then they do the distribution. And then the weekly giveaways are things that we've been able to get sponsored.
Sponsorships for.
And so we ask individuals, like the people on, listening in, if you're inspired by what we do, we always say, go to our website, southlacafe.com, because on there you can sign up for a one-time donation, a multiple month donation, or you can just sponsor groceries. And people get very inspired by that all around the world, of feeling like, here's a way.
And she's serious about all around the world. We were on the covers of LA Times, and that day we got donations from Australia, Korea, China.
Because people want to do something. People want to do something. They can't always protest. They can't they can't open a business. They can't, put their lives at risk, but they want to support people who are doing those things. And so again, just for sort of what you guys stand for here and that inclusive energy, I think it's one thing to practice what you preach. It's also to create the layers of really amplifying that message through all of your branding, through all of your marketing, through all of your campaigns, where it creates that company culture. So there you go.
Thank you. That's fantastic. And such a time and place for you guys. What an influence, but also your ability to react, and be able to pivot and lean in even more into the core of your mission, right? So really exciting. Kudos. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Telling us your story, which is just, we really appreciate, and it's so thrilled to have you here. Awesome. Okay. Grady, you had a big pivot too. Tell us about how 2020 changed your approach to inclusion for Give to Get. If I can see Grady, I still see Celia and Joe for some reason, but maybe that's because I'm talking.
I haven't started talking.
Now I can see you. Awesome.
So when we create social impact and we work with companies to develop these programs, where CSR and impact and purpose sit within companies is different for every company. Sometimes it's in marketing, sometimes it's philanthropy, sometimes it's HR, sometimes it's legal, sometimes it's facilities. So it's a bit of a homeless practice. And frankly, before a lot of this happened, diversity and inclusion wasn't part of the social impact and purpose conversations. And I think since it has happened, I have seen the merging of CSR and DEI departments. I have seen people, I've seen org changes in our clients that accelerate. I think the virus has accelerated a lot of trends that were happening, and it revealed stresses and fractures in community, as Celia and Joe were talking about. But I think from a business context, from an established business context, it has really reorganized how purpose, CSR, social impact, DEI are now starting to come under one conversation, because I think it is becoming, it always was, but again, the acceleration of it, it's becoming just as important for people to know who you are as what you do. And I think, and just as a fascinating, I think, illustration of it is we were recently contacted by a big private equity company, and they are about 25 years old. They invest in defense, maritime, government. They've raised, I think they just closed a fund of a little over $1 billion, and they got the Canadian Pension Fund has been investing in that private equity company for 15 years. And they said, okay, we will invest with you now. This is all happening in the spring. We will invest you one more time, but I can't invest with you anymore, because when I go to your team page, it's all old white men, and I won't be able to do it again. And so you see a lot of these that's $500 million there that is going to go somewhere that has a more diverse identity. And not in an industry or a place where you thought that would happen, right? We're just talking industrials, B2B, off onto the side. This isn't Coke, and it's not, you know, consumer brand. So I think there's a lot of massive tectonic plates that are shifting, and I think all of this stuff, while we have been, you know, away from work and we've had to be home, we've been able to see it and focus on it, and no distractions for it. And I think it has really brought it to a head in a way that has really been remarkable. So you know, when we now see kind of a lot of what we do pulling in kind of inclusion, equitable conversations around social impact and purpose. And that's been a big change in the last 5 months. So I think that's a massive acceleration of that conversation. So I think it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we were talking earlier about how even at Warner Media, right, they merged the corporate responsibility group in with the inclusion group. So now the head of inclusion is also head of corporate responsibility. So exactly what you're talking about, that trend that's starting to happen even at the major corporations. So that's interesting.
I don't think that would have happened 3 months ago. I
that's
the
right.
Same thing. State Farm, you know, State Farm is a big, you know, Fortune 35 company. You know, they kind of made the same move quickly because they had to, and they were looking around saying, this has to be more core to our being here. And so it's it's crazy. It's moving quickly, and hopefully the right direction. It seems to be a good direction from my point of view.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sonya, let's go over to you. Tell us about how 2020 has changed your approach.
Yeah, if I may, I do want to echo what Grady said about the acceleration of the trends, right? Regarding the investors, like the PE firm that called you, you know, as early as 2016 and 2017, there were signs that the investment community was really getting focused on this. You know, Bloomberg and Thomson Reuters and these people, they were creating a D&I index, separate and distinct from their, you know, social responsibility, all those measures that were mostly environmental and other things. But this was really around diversity and inclusion. I actually talked to somebody at Bloomberg about a couple years ago when we were starting our company, and I said they had just created their index, and I said, how come? I mean, creating an index on a trading platform is expensive deal. You know, it's not something you just do one day. And they said, well, our investors care about it. They were calling us about it, and they were. So some people had the signs, but then, you know, it always takes some kind of a trigger to then, you know, encourage a lot of people to go in that direction. I feel like exactly like Grady said, a lot of these things were happening, but now it's just much more, you know, kind of like everywhere. For us, you know, we, in the February of this year, we had just announced D&I as a service. You know, we had our technology platform, which we launched last year, beginning of last year, and we had customers on it, but we had realized that you needed really the service and, you know, a person and the process to go with the technology and the data to make it really successful, and creating a touch point for everyone and engaging everyone to really create a culture of inclusion. So we had just released an announcement when COVID hit. And I remember like on March 15th, you know, a couple of days after, you know, we quit going to the office, one of my investors called, and you know, our perspective then was what's proven to come true. We felt, you know, as a startup, you're always trying to disrupt. Right? First, you're trying to disrupt by telling people that there's something they're missing or something wrong or something that needs to be improved. And then you say, okay, and my solution is the right solution, right? So there's like a two-part problem, right? Well, what I told our investor is, look, at half of my job is now done for me, right? I mean, people realize they need something else, that there's a change, there's something happening. And so now all I have to do is come in here and tell them that our solution is the right one. So that's kind of like the glass half full that you have to have as an entrepreneur. I'm guilty of it to an extreme. And then what we did is really what ended up happening is, and this is even before the George Floyd, killing and the ensuing BLM heightening and all that. But even just with COVID by itself, it did really two things for us. It expanded the breadth of the definition of inclusion. It used to be that we were all focused on traditionally underrepresented groups, which is, of course, very, very important. But also then it came to light that depending on where you lived, your zip code, some areas just have better access. They have better bandwidth, and some people are just more technology savvy for whatever reason, depending on their job or what they were doing. Blue collar people haven't had to use it, white collar, typically more interaction with computers. And then parents, oh my God, my heart goes out to parents. I'm so glad my child is all grown and on his own. I don't know how parents handle everything frankly who have small children. So it really broadened our definition of inclusion. And then of course, with what happened May 25th, our understanding of the issues in our society, I would say, deepened. We realized how much we didn't know. We threw ourselves as a team, I told the whole team, we just need to get better educated. Even though this is our business and we thought we were fairly well educated about it, or at least had made, some good efforts towards it. And frankly, even before we put our statement out a couple weeks later, we made sure that we understood, that we really looked into the things that we didn't know that we didn't know. And we've continued. With our community around educating. We started a mastermind group. So if anything, I would say a little bit like what Celia and Joe said, it kind of gives you a better appreciation of how much your business could do, how much more your business could do, and for us, if anything, it's very unfortunate. There are many challenges. There's a lot of loss, and our hearts go out to all the people who are experiencing those things. But as a business, I think for obvious reasons, obviously D&I is now, everybody at least knows what it stands for. But also for us ourselves, I think as a team, it just broadened and deepened our understanding of what we're trying to do. And so for that reason, we're going to be a better team. We're going to have a better offering. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's a wave that you're riding right now in a way. Yeah, it's really fast. What an amazing time to be in the business that you're in.
It feels like a boulder. They say when you're starting your business, and if it's like at the beginning, you feel like you're pushing this boulder up, and then they say when it really, that there is like at least good product market fit, or there's like really good demand for a thing where you feel like the boulder is chasing you down.
You better run fast enough. Yeah.
It definitely feels that way.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. That's great, Sonya. Thank you. Okay, Eric, over to you. 2020, Eric, and tell us. I think you're on the verge of launching more formally. I think, but you've launched somewhat. Tell us what's happening with Ayana Therapy and how 2020 is playing a role.
Yeah, so we've launched in private beta, right? So we've been able to acquire clients between corporations and universities. The notion of mental health is a concept that, though it's quite still stigmatized, communities have been a lot more progressive of late over the last two or three years. And so we happen to be in a space where the environment is quite fertile, but even more so with COVID-19, and ostensibly more so with the demise of George Floyd of late. Those have been quite cathartic moments where they've compelled companies to, we've gotten literally, I think, the week of the riots, 15 companies calling, saying that they wanted to have access to counseling on behalf of people of color. And the subtext there is that they had been ignored for so long, right? And so when they had access to counseling, people of color, say, Latino, Asians, Black, or, queers, and they weren't able to find what they were looking for, right? And it's not until people woke up and realized that the need really was there, that there was, a much more intentional inquiry as to what could be done. And us being on the receiving end, we were able to, again, with cultural humility and integrity, of course, because being able to garner and elicit that kind of demand in this market, may compel one to just rush and offer a service that may not be as appropriate as it should be, right? And so for us, if anything, though we are also riding a wave, which I'm saying this super carefully, we want to approach it with caution, and be very thoughtful as to how we exploit that, right? We have a pipeline of 25 companies that would like to use the product, and we want to make sure that Ayana is around in 5-10 years from now, and it's going to require us being, again, very thoughtful. But yeah, so this year has been a year that no one could have foreseen. When I thought about launching Ayana a year and a half ago, it was really for the sake of wanting to, again, recapture a sense of integrity for people who've just been neglected. And so the amalgamation of COVID-19 and the George Floyd demise have made it such that for us, it really created a sense of attention that I didn't know would have happened. And so again, for us, for me and my team, I want to make sure that we enter that conversation with caution and, again, cultural humility, integrity. This ought to be about a user-centered product. They should tell us what they need in lieu of the opposite. What seems to have happened in this space is that there's a bit of arrogance in the product delivering service, in that, we seem to be saying to people, I know what you need. It ought to be the, may I hear what you need, and then go back to your lab and see if you can help. And that is the kind of value that I want us to be able to instill and inculcate throughout Ayana, given that 2020 has given us that kind of exposure.
I love that, Eric. May I hear what you need? That's what a lovely phrasing. I also want to appreciate, Eric, we're connected on LinkedIn, and I see you often uplift companies that I would consider to be your competitors, companies that are in the same space. And I've asked you about that before, and you say, we need all the help we can get. I mean, you're so motivated by the cause. So I just really appreciate that how driven you are towards your purpose. So yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take a question or two from y'all. And I think Emily has been monitoring the chat. And Emily, if you wanna tell us what question you have chosen.
Sure, I will share one. This was one of the ones that came up earlier in the chat, and it's a bit of a broad question, and it actually does echo some of the questions and responses that we heard in our prior, in our event that we did our speaker series from last month, our community night, where we spoke with everyone in our community and we're bouncing some questions and ideas around. But this one was, in organizations of all different shapes and sizes and industries, how do we ensure that minority groups have a seat at the table or a voice in leadership, especially when those voices have maybe not been historically heard? And one thing that we also wanted to, something that came up last month also was this idea of making sure that you were avoiding this like tokenization and making it feel like it was organic and authentic, the way that you sought out those voices.
Thank you. This is an open question to the panelists. Would anyone like to take that, or I can choose one of you? Actually, yeah, go ahead, Sonya.
I'll go just because I guess this is what we do all day long. And, it is a very broad question, as you said, Emily. So I'll address one aspect of it. I mean, clearly, we have defined like 50 key performance indicators that companies should look at, and part of that is your succession plan. Is your promotion process, and look at the data on that so that the gaps and where things are out of balance can be surfaced. But one thing that I think is really important, and we've looked at the data, everybody talks about board diversity, and I'm all for board diversity, so I don't want any of this to be taken out of context or misunderstood. I sit on public company board, and I think it's very important, obviously, but we don't see as strong a relationship between necessarily representation, having the seat at the table, and the overall inclusion of the company. Surprise, surprise, right? Newsflash, right? and this is when I say this on panels and things, people look at me like, but that's all we do. At the end of the day, we're a data company, and we have data scientists, we have the world's experts that teach this stuff and write books about it, like our CTO, and so we understand what data means, and while that's all good, nobody's saying not to do those things, it's not enough, right? So part of the answer I'm going to give you is companies must find better ways than doing once a year, twice a year, even once a quarter engagement surveys to really hear the voice of all their employees, right? That's just not enough. I mean, again, good thing to do. I'm not saying to stop doing that. I'm just saying they're not enough. Because when you do a survey, you only hear, what somebody thinks at that very moment that they're answering the very question you thought to ask them. You know nothing about the other million things they may be thinking all the other rest of their lives. So you have to provide an environment, a safe environment in which people can engage and share their stories and share their inputs. And it must be something that's not just like for work. It's like, you can't mix these things. We all have Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever, where we talk about work. But so why, if people are really want to understand, they have to make an effort. I'll just give an example. It's not to say that this is necessarily what people, but you have to have something we provide as part of our platform. One of the things that's provided is an employee portal. The employee portal is a safe place, is intentionally built for diversity and inclusion. It provides insight to the people that are on the platform themselves to see who else is engaging with them, how they're reacting to them. Leadership can get on there, everybody can get. So you want to get on there. And, we see during post-COVID, it has shot up several-fold in terms of engagement of our customers, employees on this platform. And so many of them have called me and have said, you used to tell us that this is really important. And we kind of thought, well, okay, maybe she's right, maybe not. We'll do it anyway, we'll see. We said, now we're here to call you, and I mean, to their credit, to tell you that we're so glad we have this now. And so many people have now taken advantage of it. We're offering it for free, that part of our platform, the employee portal, for free for the rest of 2020. We made that decision right away after COVID happened. We decided to make that available so that money was not an issue for people that really want to hear from their employees. So that's just one part of the answer. I'm sure there's many other ways to look at it.
Oh, Joe, you're unmuted.
Yeah, appreciate that. Hi, Joe.
I unmuted us because Joe is giving rave reviews here.
Yes, we want that. we want all of that.
Yeah, I've written myself a note to come to your cafe.
Okay, good. we need a personal consult right now. I'm like, we pride ourselves on diversity and inclusion, and yet I'm sure we could be doing a lot better. You sound like the expert.
Yes. Oh,
happy to. I'm so glad that you're in this town, because frankly, most of our customers, frankly, are not in this town.
Okay.
we love. So we'll talk, definitely.
Am I allowed to interject, Taya, really fast?
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but
It's Brenda Gilmore, first timer. I have to say it's because of Sonya that I'm actually here tonight, because I sat in on a panel discussion that she did with Robert half a month ago. And just so you all know, my company will be signing up for their DS platform next year. Because I went through the interactive, and it's so beneficial. So I'm just gonna plug her right now and what she's doing. It's
oh gosh, thank you.
Yeah. Caroline and Dana are my contacts with our office. So I just had to share that. It really, if you're really looking to improve your D&I initiatives with your company or you're just getting started, very helpful tool. So I'm going back to mute.
Thank you. Brenda.
I'm so happy to meet you, Brenda Joy. I'm sorry I haven't met you before.
That's great. See, it takes a CCLA Zoom to bring us all together, right? That's what does it. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. Well, and reminder, the contact information is in the link, the Google Doc link. So definitely feel free to download that and reach out to each other. That's great. And when you look at that, you'll see from the bio that Sonya is also a former NASA engineer, which is how when I first met Sonya, she introduced herself as that and starting this D&I company. And I'm like, this is a woman I need to keep track of. Like, this is interesting. So interesting combo. Okay, I wanted to, Emily, I think you had another question. Emily, is there another question?
Yeah, and this feels like a good one to maybe wrap up the conversation that everyone can speak to if they would like. So a lot of you have been in business for quite some time, and you've had different ventures in the conscious space, the capitalism space. And so given all your prior experiences, and then also just all the realities that have occurred in 2020, what does the future look like for your businesses? I know we've all had to do pivoting to some extent, and I'm just curious, which of those changes and pivots have you done that are more short-term, just to sort of get through the next 12, 18 months? And what are these pivots that you're seeing, or realities or realizations that have occurred over the last 6 months that you're seeing are actually shaping your company more long-term, if any?
I was actually going to throw a question very similar to that over to Grady. So I'm gonna ask Grady. Grady, you want to take that one?
Sure. Sure.
You can say no.
No. For us, we were heavy in the event space. So we were organizing big employee engagement programs, big consumer engagement events. We started doing this work by producing concerts where the only way you could get in was to volunteer. So we were boots on the ground, getting people by the thousands to go mobilize in their community. So they figured out who was doing what, and we were doing that globally. And then in March that gets shut off, and so now nobody can be there in person. But we were in the midst of an evolution of turning social impact, of being more vertically integrated. And so, there was a lot of people we were getting, when we were able to do big events, we were, kind of putting lipstick on the pig, a lot of really bad strategy, bad ideas, bad, ill thought out plans. And so we decided to go, up the chain a little bit and said, try to tell people what you're trying to do is dumb and it's not really going to do anything. Let us help you talk to some local organizations to find out what's really needed on the ground. And so we got into the strategy space around trying to help people figure out what they should do. And then we could go help them do it and then figure out if it worked on the back end. So we have gone to, we've gone to this at-home platform where, when everybody went home, everyone started doing kind of virtual volunteering in a way where they were getting on Zooms with kids or mentees or some kind of one-on-one experience, but there wasn't a group experience that you could really replicate. And so we created a platform where we send groups of 50, everybody gets their own kit, and we get on a Zoom like this, and it becomes a project where you develop and you build the kit with everyone. It becomes a very kind of engaging, no agenda type of a session. And then you send those materials to a local nonprofit who's expecting them. And so, trying to find that connection, because we really try to find ways to connect people to each other through experiences. And so I think, eventually we will be able to get together en masse. We will kind of get on the other side of this, but I don't think, I think this virtual kind of gathering is something that will maintain. I still think people are going to want to try to do dumb things, so we're going to try to keep them from doing dumb things. And ultimately, get on the big data side of it and figure out what's really working. What kinds of interventions, what kinds of things really make a difference, because it did reveal, when the tide went out, it did reveal a lot of cracks in our society. And I think there's a lot of work to do. I think the private sector knows they have a role in it. I think they know it's good for their business. So I kind of think, we've made some changes to be able to get through this year, but I think we'll be coming out of this, shooting out of a cannon pretty well once things get back online.
Mm-hmm. And I love the focus on metrics that you have brought into the way you're viewing this, and the diligence that needs to go into how do we measure, real impact, and how do we know what works? Like you said, what's really moving things forward. It's super hard. It's not a straightforward, hasn't been straightforward. And I know that you've been putting focus on that, and it would be interesting to hear a discussion between you and Sonya on that, because Sonya is measuring and providing, metrics as well as part of the service that she's offering companies. That would be a cool thing. That's great. Did I hear somebody say something? No. Okay. Great. Eric, I wanted to ask you a question. You're in the midst of, you've got your beta, and then you're going to be launching. What's been your largest challenge along the way, if you would be willing to share with us? Because I think it's really helpful for people to hear about, the tough parts, the challenging parts, and how would you say that you successfully responded, and where, if you would share, maybe did you fall short, or your business fall short?
So for me, I think, and I think you know this already about me, I don't have a background in tech, nor do I have one in counseling. So it was a rather impulsive decision, backed by the fact that I suffered from rather debilitating issues of depression, which propelled the mission a lot more, right? And to the point where there's a sense of naivete where I don't see a challenge where there should be a challenge. It does, however, come at a cost where, as you grow and as you level up and you try to assign to the next stage, you realize that you aren't a counselor, nor are you an engineer. But I'm learning right now. But I mean, I find solace in that very same passion is what gives you the determination to hire the good people that you have to have around you. So, I mean, I'd say for me, right, had I done this if I were more equipped technically or academically, I don't know how I would have fared. But a part of me thinks that I could have been readier than I am. And I may not be giving enough credit to my passion, which really, really, helped a great deal. But I don't recommend anyone impulsively, delving into a space that is challenging, unless, right, which to me, I find a blessing in that, I suffered, and it's in, quotations, because I don't think that it was suffering. I feel blessed that I've gone through that journey. But again, it came at a cost, right? And it would take me a while to be able to fully assess what the costs are, because I'm currently entrenched in them. But it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey, and there's been, a few challenges. And I'm lucky to have some good advisors that are erudite and very good at what they do, that can give us guidance throughout the whole process.
Thank you for sharing that whole story. And I don't know, it seems like you're doing pretty awesome. So it's hard to argue that someone shouldn't, what did you say, impulsively jump into something like this. Well, we'll talk in a couple of weeks after you launch officially, and then see how you feel.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, my money's on you, Eric. You're all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to jump in too, Taya, and tell Eric, actually, I think your story is the best kind of story. You know, when I started 2 years ago, I told everybody I just couldn't not do it. Like there was no good reason for me to become an entrepreneur. But at that point in my life, but it's like I had so much passion and conviction around it. And you know, I don't call myself necessarily a D&I or an HR expert either, but they're great people that come your way when you have that kind of passion and you're doing the right thing, as most of the people on this call with conscious capitalism, I'm sure, are very familiar with. Somehow the universe organizes itself. I can say this because we're from California, I guess. You know, it organizes and conspires to help you, and then all of a sudden, all the great things happen. So, yeah. Very inspiring, your story.
Oh, that was fantastic. I love it. I'm gonna get. Oh, sorry.
I'll share a say that my mom would often share with me when good things came my way, and it was as a means to keep me humbled. She'd say, "When the gods start clapping, you better start dancing." Right? And it's as a way to honor outside forces and elements that have helped you succeed, that you need to also be able to honor. It's not just your own success. Anyway, I don't want to, you know.
Love that. That's going to be the quote of the panel, Eric. Yeah, like, no, that's great. I wanted to give the last question back over to Celia and Joe that we started with, and this is a look. If you were to go forward a year into the future, looking back a year from now, what would you say is the number one decision that you made that was most responsible for the growth of your business?
Well, I think it was the.
No, a year from now. What's going to be a year from now most responsible for the growth?
Oh, I get it now. Okay. Okay.
While he thinks about that, let me just say one thing, which is, Sonya, we already talked about how we want to follow up with you, but Joe the whole time is like, I like her. I want to talk to her more. Like, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And then Grady, I wanted to say, we have had an influx of volunteers, in-person volunteers who have been doing labor on a daily basis that literally we would not be able to be doing the social impact work we are without that. So if you actually have people still who are looking for ways to safely volunteer, please keep us in mind. And sure, you keep thinking of that answer. But Eric, just wanted to say also, we have a very large following of probably your ideal client. And so if you're looking for strategic partnerships, or if there is ways to talk more, I have my own coaching firm. And so I've actually developed a whole directory of coaches, in particular, a lot of women of color coaches. So they're not therapists, but I'm just saying I have a lot of synergy in that space. So just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, go ahead. Awesome. So a year from now, what's going to be our big decision that was the catalyst of growth for us? We have a lot.
We have two that we're working on right now, but the biggest one I'm thinking right now is we have run out of space. Mm-hmm. We can reach and supply more people if we had, or when we get our 10,000 square foot building. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's as simple as it is. It's absolutely, you wouldn't believe how we're serving. Well, you know, it's God's work that we're serving the amount of bags and boxes that we're producing in a 900 square foot building. It's crazy. I don't know how we do it, you know, every day. So I think that's going to be our biggest thing when we get a bigger scale. We have more of an assembly line.
Yeah, for all of us who know about scaling and sustainability and all of that, it's like when you go on Shark Tank and they say, like, are you ready? Oh, be quiet, honey. That's our dog.
That's our dog.
Obviously. When they say, are you ready for this growth that's to come? You know, like, did you already order 30,000 units because you're about to be on Shark Tank?
Right.
That's sort of where we're at, where things are, we're almost capping at the level of growth, sustainable growth that we can create with the business. because we don't have enough capacity and space to build within.
So,
There's nothing else stopping us. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
literally.
it's one of those things that's, and I wanted to say, is it Sonya or Sonya?
I respond to both. I respond to both. My mother calls me Sonia.
there you go, Sonya.
Well, his ex-wife is Sonya, so I'll go with Sonya.
Hey, Jesus. We're friends now.
She's a
you know,
very nice
family.
lady. She's a very nice lady. We have a blended family. But just to say, shoot, wait, I lost my train of thought on that one that I was gonna say. Oh, when you were talking about the boulder, that's where we are too, where it's like the boulder is like rolling so fast and we're running so fast and we're like trying to build everything behind us as quickly as we can to like have this infrastructure in place. And I was telling Joe, I'm at the point right now, and I know this, again, I know we're obviously in a point where we're in the middle of a crisis,
Right.
but businesses that are serving a need are seeing a lot of growth. And for us, I'm almost not wanting to open up our email because
of opportunities.
There's a lot of amazing opportunities that are coming,
Yeah,
but I'm like, every
insane.
time I open it up and I see another opportunity, it's one of those things of like, shit, you know, do we have what we need to be able to pull this off and do it in a good way? So I think that to your point, Taya,
and that's not a complaint. We're not complaining. We're just saying it's reality.
No, it is that scaling question, right? Like you do need to be ready, otherwise you could overdo it, and then it could you know, that could be a problem right there. Yeah, no, that's great. I want to thank everybody. I'm going to wrap us up now. I think this has been fantastic. I've loved the learning between all of you. I've loved what we've learned all here together. I love what this conversation has surfaced for the whole community. So really, thank you so much for sharing everything that all of you did. I'll say that everyone is welcome to stay online if you would like to. We're going to break out into optional discussion groups for just asking some more questions, just talking. We're gonna put panelists in each breakout room, so there'll be 4 breakout rooms, and then we're just going to randomly assign everybody who's interested in just hanging out and just talking for a few more minutes. Nothing long and no big deal, nothing formal. And if you don't want to stay, you're not obligated in any way. It's just an extra little chance to talk a little bit more. And so I just wanted to say, you know, we're really in a journey here, and it really starts with listening and learning, which we did some of tonight, and it also includes personal work. Right, we talked a little bit in the beginning. It's work on vulnerability, on empathy, on learning your own biases. So I would definitely encourage you, if you're interested in stepping more into that space. We're going to have a really great workshop next month called the Diversity Gym that CJ talked about in the beginning. That'll be September 23rd. I encourage you all to join. That hasn't been posted quite yet to Eventbrite, but it will be. And so you can go and check that out. Pretty cool. It talks about diversity being basically everybody's in a different space of their understanding of equity and inclusion. But in the gym concept, we can all get our fitness levels, work on them together. That's the analogy. So it's pretty cool. I think it'll be a neat workshop. So right now, I think, thank you everyone so much for attending this panel. It has been our pleasure and our joy to have you be part of this conversation. Please tell folks about CCLA if you're inspired by this, because I think we really have a wonderful opportunity to help improve the world, change the world for good. So we will now be creating the breakout rooms. I think they might be in progress right now, I'm hoping. And then we'll send everybody to those breakout rooms. How close are we to that, would you say?
We are doing great. I'm going to be sending
Christina.
I am going to be sending everybody automatically. Just a heads up, as people are kind of exiting, you know, some will stay behind. I might be moving you to a different room. So just want to give you a heads up if you pop into one and then get switched to another. You feel free to reach out in the chat if there's a room you're interested in, and y'all have fun having conversation.
Got a few people trickling in.
Yep. We'll have some.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, I probably have to jump, but I sure would love to have an opportunity to thank our panelists. You guys really were so inspiring. You just kind of made my day. It was a hard day, I think, well, for me and, maybe even for others. And you were just all really inspiring. And if I can make any connections or be helpful in any way, I'm happy to. I've got most of your contact information. Eric, I don't think I have yours though. So if you want to put your email in the chat, I'd love to connect you with Christine Correa, who runs Butler. It's kind of a similar platform, but without the focus that yours has.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll do it now.
And I'm just coming in here late, but Lisa, his info is also in the Google Doc, the link in the Google Doc.
Oh, is that what it is? Awesome.
Yeah, if nothing else, it's there for sure. So yeah.
Don't worry, Eric, I'll track you down.
Actually, I just sent you an email, right? You sent me a note about your friend who runs the Butler company. Yeah. So
Good. Okay, cool.
Well, you guys are the hardcore group. You're still here. This is amazing. We've let you go twice, and you're still here.
Yeah, I was told there'd be an after party. But
there's an after party. I don't have any.
I've already gotten started here. Joe's eating cookies and I'm drinking champagne. So
during party.
During party. We did. Someone was telling me about how they did. Maybe Christina, it was you or was it you? Was telling actually doing separate tickets for here's the main thing, and then if you actually do want to join afterwards, then because we were thinking how can we make sure that if you did want to talk to one person in particular, that you could sign up for that person's after party, that type of thing. So we're getting there. We have each time we get some new capability that we haven't done before. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you being here. So much appreciate your participation, and we hope to see you next month. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thanks, Tam.
Bye.
Thanks for
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Guys. You get small. Look at that.
Who's last?
Are we going to be the last?
Who's going to stay on the longest? No.
I'm in.
The real
after party.
It's like the late night shutdown.
Are we going to go?
Check
it out. He really wants to
be last three.
You guys are tired. You've been working all day.
Staff members.
I know.
They're all staff
All
members.
those
We're the only
boxes.
non-staff person.
Peace.